Hi, it's Loren Lockman from the Tanglewood Wellness Center in Costa Rica. I've been asked a question when you're back home, and you may be at home now, if you're watching this on YouTube, and you are buying your food. That is to say, you don't have the ability, as we do here, to go off and pick some of it off the trees. You're not necessarily eating things that were grown at the neighbor's farm, that were picked yesterday. You're buying things from a grocery store. You may not know where they came from, and they often may not be as ripe as you'd like them to be when you buy them. There are two things you want to keep in mind. One of them is you want to know which fruits are going to ripen once they've been picked, and you want to know which ones aren't. Okay? And people think, well, this pineapple, it'll ripen. It won't. Unfortunately, pineapples are confusing because the skin will change color, but you will not, the nutrient content and sugar content will never change once it's been picked. It will start to rot, it'll start to break down, but it's not ripening anymore. It's never developing anymore. That's a pineapple. That's true with an orange. Once they're picked, it's done. Okay? It's not going to get any better. Watermelons don't really ripen once they're picked, but cantaloupes do, and most melons do, and mangoes do, and avocados do. Some fruits do and some fruits don't. So it's important to know which it is. If you buy green bananas, they're going to ripen, right? One of the ways you can ripen fruit faster is by putting it in a paper bag with a slice of apple or banana, because the ripe fruit lets off ethylene gas, which will help ripen what's in the bag. And because it's in the bag, it's being trapped. You do not ever want to put fruit in a plastic bag. Okay, don't do this in plastic, do this in paper, if you can still find a paper bag. Do this in a paper bag, not a plastic bag. So this is one way you can ripen it if you're not able to get it properly ripened. Now, but again, if it's stone fruits, right, summertime, so peaches, nectarines, plums, apricots, these fruits will all ripen once they've been picked. Now, if they're picked too early, they'll never ripen properly. Anybody here had the experience of buying green bananas and waiting and waiting and waiting and then finally throwing them away because they never ripened, they just turned black. They went from being green to being garbage, right? That's what happens if something is picked way too soon. Okay, if it's picked way too early, it may never ripen properly. But if you can pick a banana when it's green. In fact, I don't know if you've noticed, we do not wait for the bananas here to ripen completely before we pick them. Why not? Anyone know why not? It's not that they'll go bad right away. They will disappear. Right. If we leave them on the plant, they won't disappear, but what will happen is each banana will wind up with multiple holes in it. Birds and bats will eat right through the skin, and they'll eat perfectly round holes right in the food. I'd rather have them myself and not be feeding the wildlife. So we pick them, and you can, because if you wait for the right moment, you can cut them, bring them inside, let them ripen in your kitchen, and that's perfectly fine. And again, if it's not too early, you don't even need to use ethylene gas. You don't have to put them in a bag. You just have to wait. Usually you buy bananas, and in 2 or 3 or 4 days, 5 days, they're ready to eat, right? So that's going to be true with a lot of fruits. And it's just important to know which ones that is true and which ones it's not true for. Now, obviously, if you're in the countryside somewhere and there are farmers markets, meet your local farmers, okay? Talk to them. Find out when they pick the stuff. See if they're using pesticides or not. Ask them what their practices are. Let them know that you want the highest quality food possible, and find out what that is. And then buy the best you can find. Okay?
All right.
Questions?
But not exposing to sunlight or...
Well, there are people, for instance, here who believe that you can take a papaya and score the skin and put it in the sun and it'll ripen faster. I'm not so sure. Or avocados. You can ripen them more quickly by putting them in the sun. I don't really know that you want to do that. I think it may not be such a great idea once they've been picked. Once they're on when they're on the plant, they're perfectly fine, they're protected, but I don't think once they've been picked you really want to put them in full sun. So I don't really recommend doing that. What you need to do is plan ahead. So, if you know, I mean, first of all, you don't want to buy ripe papayas, okay, because you can't get them home if they're already ripe. They bruise so easily. You need to buy papayas, still a little bit hard, and papayas too ripen perfectly well off the plant. Okay, you wait for a certain time, you pick them, you bring them inside, you still wait a few days. When we take them off the plants here, you still have to wait a few days before you eat them. Okay, but that's great because that means they're completely intact. If they were soft, you'd have a hard time getting them home. So you just have to plan in advance. You know that when you buy your fruit, the apples and oranges are going to be ready to eat. The watermelon's going to be ready to eat. It's going to be as good as it's going to get. Okay, the pineapple is going to be ready to eat. A lot of the other things might take some time. So plan in advance, buy accordingly. You can do very well. It's one of the things that people frequently say is, Loren, it's easy for you to talk about how easy it is to do this. You live in the tropics, okay? And I really appreciate when people point that out because I forget sometimes that I live in the tropics. It's easy to forget that. Oh, yeah. But, remember that I spent my first 14 years eating a fruit-based raw vegan diet living outside of Washington, D.C., where we had a cold winter and a 4 to 6 month growing season, whatever it is, depending on what the food is, every year. And it's not that different from where many of you live, okay? It's a little bit different than it is up in Scandinavia, Ben, but it's not that different from many other places. So you can do this and thrive virtually anywhere. I will tell you, there's no question about it, that getting fruit that was just picked, that's only a few days off the plant, makes a huge difference because it's losing vitality. And when I moved to Panama, it'll be 10 years in just over a month. It'll be 10 years since I moved out of the U.S. And when I made that move, I moved with 2 staff members who live with me on site in the U.S. Okay, an American and a Canadian both moved to Panama with me. And we moved in the summertime. We moved in July. So we've been getting high-quality local produce for a couple of months before we made that move. We moved to Panama, and within about 6 weeks, we were having dinner one night, and someone said, I felt really good before, but I feel even better now. And the climate's the same as it was. It's summertime. It wasn't that different. We were eating the same fresh fruit. What's different? Well, the difference is the food we were buying before, the majority of it was being shipped thousands of miles. Now, in the summertime, as much of it as possible is local, but we're still getting things coming from other places. Here, now, everything I feed you guys is coming from Costa Rica, and most of it was picked within the last couple days. And there may be 1 or 2 exceptions, but it's very rare. Almost everything is that fresh and local. Yeah, okay. And who is doing this for you? Okay, so if you're going to visit people you can ask them to buy some food for you 3 or 4 days in advance. That may or may not work if you're going to a hotel or someplace like that. And that's where it's important to simply know these things I can buy today and eat today. These other things, you don't want to go someplace and think, I'm going to live on mangoes and expect to be able to buy a bunch of ripe mangoes because usually they're not going to be ready yet. You're going to have to wait. Okay? The same is going to be true with a lot of things. Other things are ready to eat. Okay? Question over here, somebody? Nope? All right. I hope that's been helpful for you. I'll see you next time.